When I was a boy, I remember there never seemed to be any sunlight. It was always grey, it was always raining, and there was always a terrible shortage of things. I've never liked the state. I've always loathed the British state, both historically and in terms of my own life. And of course, this probably makes me end up in a place like this, surrounded by Alps. This is not my native country, God alone knows. I'm in exile, in other words, and this is probably the best explanation of the kind of person I am that you can find, that I am naturally an exile. There has been in me all my life a certain sense of loss, a feeling that I didn't have what other people had. Namely, I never had a mother, and looking back on early life, I feel a little resentful that I never had this kind of, parental attention, parental love that other people seem to have without any trouble at all. The lack of a mother, the lack of filiality in my life, and having to find substitutes for a mother, which I suppose I eventually found tried to find in religion without any success, and without being too, how shall I put it, too highbrow about it, probably found in art. When I was a lad, pubs were great, ornate, brassy places with singing rooms. My father used to be banging away on the piano in one of them. And of course, people used to get very drunk. You were really in touch with the demonic, or the Bacchic, or the Dionysiac in life in a pub. It was not good for me because I was a rather sequestered child, rather scared of people, but it did draw me into the big Rabelaisian world. It's not a bad thing. The world of drink, the world of sex, a world totally lacking in inhibitions. If you want a world without inhibitions, go to a pub.
I know.
If You Were the Only Girl in the World, it came out of a long-running wartime show called The Big Boys on Broadway. I remember that. It's one of the earliest memories I have of my father playing. Yes. They also played in the cinema, though, and when I was a young boy, I used to go there and hear him accompanying the film up there on the street. He never used music as a general rule. He normally improvised or played from memory, and when he played for a Charlie Chaplin film, I was always amazed at the immense speed with which you could follow the cuts, this kind of thing. And then back to so it's gone like that forever. This still strikes me as being the best image of the future I've yet seen in film. I think that the image of the future that it presents, although it was obviously all cut-out stuff, they weren't real New York skyscrapers. It was it was a maquette. It was a built-up city. It was obvious. This really, you're quite right. It did implant in me a desire to eventually use words to depict not the present nor the past, but this unimaginable future. I think the British have been rather good at that in a curious way. I had an attempt at doing that about 25 years ago, when I wrote a novel called A Clockwork Orange. They tell me this was prophetic, but I don't think so. I don't think one can prophesy, any more than Orwell could. But the future is a force that does exist for the novelist. There's no doubt at all about that. I saw it, I was impressed by it. I thought it was rather boring in places, as Kubrick is boring. Kubrick is a boring, let's be honest, a boring but clever director. I felt that Kubrick had not understood what the book was about. The book is really about a very Catholic theme, the importance of free will. We must have good, we must have evil, and we must have the power of choice. Once the power of choice is taken away, then we cease to be human beings. That's all the story was about. I suppose I was fairly highly sexed as a youth, and sought sexual experience early, or had it thrust upon me. Then came the horrible business of having to confess it. Having to go to a priest and say, Father, I've done something terribly wrong. What was it, my son? Well, I slept with a girl, Father. What? You did what? And so it went on, and yet, having confessed the sin and having received absolution, I will never do it again, you knew damn well you would do it again. This conflict between the God of one's groin, if you like, and the God up there was always a pretty persistent one, and of course it still goes on to some extent. When I was a boy, we were brought up on hell. As I get older now, I approach death. I can't help that. I mean, it's something that's going to happen, and I feel that hell may be a reality. However clever, however intellectual we are, however rationalist we are, You can't get away from the fact that may be a hell. When the Jesuits say, you know, give me a child at the age of 4 or 5 and I've got him for life, there's a lot of truth in that. My background, my thinking, my sensibility is totally Catholic, even though I don't really believe. I think the real reason why I left England in 1968, which is very nearly 20 years ago, was because England doesn't like its writers very much. England is not an easy country to write in. It's always regarded as a kind of profession of a degraded kind. You're not really making anything. Whereas in continental countries like France, Italy, it's accepted. It's a job like anything else. They call you maestro or maître. You feel a bit of a lift at doing a job which is regarded as of some value. I don't think that the writing of a novel is necessarily all that important a thing to do. It's not like founding a new religion or indeed inventing a thing like the miniskirt or producing a new kind of music like the rock or pop specialists. But I do think that, say, in the 19th century, a writer like Dickens did have a quite perceptible influence on the way people thought, the way people behaved. He had an ethical influence. Whether we're having an influence now, I don't know. All I can say is that we're trying to keep the language alive. We're trying to show that the language is not merely a political medium or even, indeed, a medium, you know, for the arcane use of poets. It is a means of showing new phases of thought, new ways of feeling. I think in that sense, it's writing novels is probably a job worth doing.